You know, a lot of people will have these moments in which they read a novel or read a book that helps shape their language. And so for me, it really was reading Alice Walker's The Color Purple and Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye when I was a senior in high school. And I read this during the summer. That gave me insight into the particular experiences that Black girls have in the United States and the ways in which their identities and their lives are often invisible. And when I read those two novels, it was amazing because it was just like someone had looked into their lives, rendered them beautiful, and given them an opportunity to speak truth to power. I'm like one of those like old school feminists in a way. I really think that feminism is the key and the solution to everything, in the sense that I think that feminists, and particularly women of color feminists, but feminists at large, have really seen tried to combat a multiple level of issues, a multi-platform of issues, whether it's environmental injustice, whether it's you know, family leave, whether it's health insurance, have really been at the forefront of or integral to so many different social movements that feminism to me is the umbrella. It's like the way in which, you know, you can, if you really want to imagine change both on a kind of micro and macro level, you have to think of feminism as a tool or a strategy in order to create social justice, social change. My gender, coupled with my racial identity, really impacted my experience here at Penn. I often felt like I was an outsider, which is kind of weird because now I'm thoroughly entrenched in the university as a college professor. But I think it took me a long time to feel comfortable, feel safe, and feel like I belong to the University of Pennsylvania. And I think it's because there were a lot of experiences that I had that were both racialized and sexist. I was sexually assaulted my freshman year here, as well as my junior year when I went on a study abroad program to Kenya. And that same junior year, a number of friends of mine were victims of domestic violence or attempted sexual assault by members of the Penn community. So I think a lot of us had this really significant and challenging feminist awakening around the violences that we were experiencing, and the Women's Center became the safe space on campus for us. It really was the Penn Women's Center that I turned to, both as a place of like sustenance, and also it was like my work-study job. So I had a real home there, and I really do think it like saved me in ways that second only to maybe like the Rape Crisis Center that was here in Philadelphia. So I really do think that it continues to provide, but initially for me as a student, it provided a real sense of homecoming and a real sense of growth and transformation. At the time, there was a newspaper that came out of the Women's Center called Generation XX, and I published my earliest feminist like manifestos or treaties in that magazine. And I also published my story in 1997 of being a rape survivor. And so when we talk about the foundation of A Long Walk Home, the nonprofit that I co-founded with my sister in 2003, the performance that we do, Story of a Rape Survivor, the testimony in that actually is the piece that I wrote in Generation XX. I always imagine what the world would have been like for me if I had Take Back the Night. When I go to the Take Back a Night events that are currently being held, that are sponsored by the Penn Women's Center, and I hear survivors share their stories, I'm so moved and honored and humbled to be in their presence and their company. But I also wish that we had had that here. I don't know if I would have gone my freshman or sophomore year, but I definitely would have gone my senior year, and I would have found other survivors earlier, and maybe I would have found, I don't know, that safe space and that sense of power earlier in my journey of recovery. The Penn Women's Center is a safe space. It's a safe space because students can intellectually grow there, they can create community and sisterhood and friendships, and they can actually create social action projects and campaigns that make a difference both on their campus or here at Penn, but also in the world at large. It provides such a important space, and particularly for feminists of color who may not know that the Women's Center is home. I think it's really important for them to see themselves there and for them to understand that it is a place that celebrates diversity and also difference.